Whether you are looking to build a new career or kickstart that new idea that you've got,
Microsoft Reactor connects you with the developers and startups that share your goals.
Learn new skills, meet new peers, and discover the latest in technology.
Events are running around the clock, so join us anytime, anywhere.
Reactors are communities to connect. We want you to meet real developers and entrepreneurs just like you. Here you can get skilled up and learn from our product experts in the Microsoft Cloud and in open source. So watch us on demand and share your own perspective as we live stream in communities all around the world.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today. My name is Rashmita, and I am the event planner for Microsoft Reactor India. This session will run over the next 60 minutes, including Q&A. But before we begin today's session, please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, being kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat section will be open throughout, and we do encourage you all to participate. So please feel free to drop all your questions in the chat section. Let me bring in Krunal, our speaker for today's session. There you go.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rashmita. Thank you so much, Microsoft Reactor, for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. From the various part of world we are. I welcome you all for the part 1 of my part 3 series on build AI powered apps with Azure AI Foundry. I am Krunal. I am a Microsoft certified trainer, MCT, as well as MCT India Community Lead. I am also Microsoft MVP for Azure and AI. I have authored a book which is available on Amazon on AI 900. You can see my GitHub URL, LinkedIn QR code, as well as my email address. Feel free to reach if you have any questions, any queries in mind. So today we are going to talk about how to build AI powered apps with Azure AI Foundry rapidly, right? So first, we are going to discuss what is Azure AI Foundry, how we can leverage it in our day-to-day code, and then I'll show you a demo where I have used a Python as well as Azure AI Foundry SDK to develop our AI agent. And I will guide you what all are required, what softwares we have used, and all those stuff. So let us start the session here. So what is Azure AI Foundry? Azure AI Foundry is a comprehensive platform by Microsoft Azure designed to accelerate AI-powered application development, deployment, as well as it helps you to manage end-to-end lifecycle, or you can say the management of AI-powered application workflow. It comes with various capabilities. For example, it provides you a unified environment for building, training, and operationalizing AI models. We can integrate our AI models with other Azure AI hosted services. It provides us a tool to streamline the end-to-end AI lifecycle. If we talk about the key components, so we have AI Studio, which is a collaborative workspace for data scientists, developers, as well as business users to build, test, and deploy AI solutions. We have Model Catalog here, which is a centralized repository for storing, sharing, and reusing machine learning models across the team as well as across the projects. We have a tool which help you, or you can say we have a navigation section which helps you for data labeling and management. Here we can prepare our data set, we can have annotations and management to ensure high quality data sets for training models. We have, say, experimentation and training section where we have scalable infrastructure for running experiments, jobs, hyperparameters, and tuning of these hyperparameters, as well as distributed training. We have deployment and inference section where we get seamless deployment of models as APIs, batch jobs, or 8 solutions with built-in monitoring and scaling. It provides us a section to implement responsible AI, which is integrated tools for fairness, explainability, privacy, and security to ensure ethical AI development. We have Azure integration workspace. So here we can have integration with native Azure cognitive services, Azure machine learning, Azure OpenAI, and other Azure services like Azure Functions, Azure Logic Apps, Bing API. So a lot of things are available here. If we talk about the project types, it supports various types of projects. So if you have Azure AI Foundry project, under Azure AI Foundry projects, we can have various types of projects. For example, conversational AI projects where we can have chatbots, virtual assistants, as well as the language understanding projects. We have Vision AI where we have image classification, object detection, OCR, as well as video analytics services possible. We have predictive analysis where we can get forecasting, anomaly detection, and business intelligence. We have custom ML models where we get end-to-end workflows for machine learning applications and custom use cases. Data pipeline, which supports ETL, data transformation, as well as feature engineering, and edge AI, where we can deploy models to IoT and edge devices for real-time inference. It's like an API endpoint we can deploy it. If we talk about pricing structure, so we have multiple usage here. We can go to pay as you go for compute resources used during the training and inference. We would be charged for data and model storage. We'll have different tiers, service tiers like basic, standard, premium with varying features and support levels. And we have to pay for additional services where we integrate our AI model or integrate our AI agent, such as Azure Functions or Azure Logic App or virtual networking, VPN, subnet, etc. So here, this integration would incur extra cost. For to know more about the pricing, feel free to visit azuremicrosoft.com and pricing tab here. As of now, this Azure AI Foundry projects or Azure AI Foundry Hub is supported in few regions. It's available in United States, Europe, Asia Pacific, Middle East, Africa, and South America. And you can check the latest general availability in terms of region in this mentioned URL, which is azure.microsoft.com global infrastructure services. So here we know like what is Azure AI Foundry. We know what are the capabilities and features of AI Foundry, key components of AI Foundry. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you create projects in Azure AI Foundry, again you have to be very careful, or you have to figure out the what type of projects you need. You just want to go for a hub project, or you want only a Azure AI project. So depending on your requirement, depending on your different metrics, you can figure it out what type of project you are going to design, you are going to develop. In summary, Azure AI Foundry empowers organizations to rapidly develop, deploy, and manage enterprise grade solutions with enterprise grade security, compliances, and responsible AI practices. Its integrated tools and services make it ideal for beginners as well as advanced AI practitioners. I'm going to show you what is Azure AI Foundry project and all. I have already prepared one solution for the demo purpose, and we'll understand all the components what we have discussed so far. So if you see here in the screen, I have this Azure AI Foundry. What I did, I can just go back to that solution and I can show you. So here you can see this is my Azure portal, and here in Azure portal I'm having Azure AI Foundry project. It will log in. So this is my AI Foundry, and here we can create hub, we can create project. So I have already provisioned one Azure AI project. Now, when we provision this Azure AI project, you would see something like this screen. This is my Azure AI project, and I click on Launch Studio. When I click on Launch Studio, I get this project dashboard. You need to authenticate here. And if you see here, this is what my resource name and API key. This is my endpoint. The endpoint is to connect you to this hub project. Now, what is this hub project? Here, it is a centralized location where we get the project connection string, endpoint, keys. We can share it with the team. We can have access here, like who can connect to the particular project and who can see this connection string and endpoints and etc. If you see here, left hand side, I have model catalogs, I have playgrounds, I have AI services. If I go to model catalogs, we get various models, open source models, Azure OpenAI model, OpenAI models. So we get all these models here. We can fine tune these models also. If I go to playgrounds, here we can just have agents playground, audio playground, image playground, and we can just play and we can taste our solutions here. Here, if I go to AI services, we can see what all services, we can see what all services we can use here in our application. We can integrate them with our particular project. Here we can build our agent. I can click on new agent and I get my agent over there. So far, I have deployed many agents here. I can create the new agent. Again, I get the agent ID and then I can use them in my application. We can fine tune models. We can fine tune AI services here. So few of the AI services which I already created, we can see. We have prompt flow. Even here, if I go to models and endpoints, it will show you my current model I'm using. So you can see I have two endpoints, one for my GPT 4.1 mini model and one endpoint is for my GPT 4. In my project, today's a demo, I'm going to use GPT 4. If you want audio input, audio output, video input, video output, multimodality, you can go for GPT 4.1 mini 2. Now, if I go back to the overview, and I click here on Management Center. Now look at this thing. In my Management Center, it shows me all the different details, various project properties, my hub name, hub resource name, subscription ID, resource group. I have my models and endpoint, so I can select the model. I can get the endpoint that I can use in my application. Connected resources section shows this model is connected with which all resources. If you see here, I am having Bing API. I can add new connection and I can get any another Azure OpenAI model, Azure AI Foundry project, Azure AI search, speech, content safety application, serverless model. We can implement Azure functions, logic apps, etc. Language services, Azure storage, Microsoft Fabric. We can grounding with Bing search. So what I did is I have selected grounding with Bing search. I can create the new resources, and then same way in Azure AI portal, I can go for Bing resources from the Azure portal. We can create a new Bing resource. Once we get to see this Bing resource, once it is deployed, we can take that endpoint and that we can use here while we create the new resource. So this way we can connect it with various Azure AI services as well as various native Azure services. Azure Document Intelligence is there. So this is what all Azure AI services. This is what all Azure data services. These are the knowledge tools, data bricks, and lot of things we can use. We can use OpenAI models. We can use OpenAI, any another API key, and we can connect our application, our third party, or our other Azure AI or Azure native services to my particular hub project. So this way I have Bing API, and here in the Bing API, this is what my target URL, api.bing.microsoft.com. This is my API key. So these two things I have used in my application. This is the Bing API one that I have used. So if I open my project here, so this is what a simple Python application I have created, and you can see I have two dependencies here. One is Azure AI project. This is what my Azure AI Foundry SDK. This is my Azure AI Foundry SDK, and this is my Azure Identity SDK, which helps me to authenticate and authorize my application against Azure subscription. If I go to this app1.py file, and if we try to understand here, we have few import statements. So I'm going to import OS module, which is for accessing environment variables. I'm going to use Azure AI Foundry project SDK. So this is Azure AI Foundry project client I'm going to use, which belongs to Azure AI project library dependency. So this is what my Azure AI Foundry SDK. The Azure identity is providing me default Azure credentials for Azure authentication. And from Azure AI project models, we are going to import Bing grounding tool, which is a Bing search tool for the agent for loading environment variables from environment file. This is my environment file here, and here I have provided two things. First of all, my project connection string. Now, what is this project connection string? So if we go to this Azure project, and if I go to project here, and this is what my project connection string. This is West US API Azure Machine Learning. So this connection string help my front-end application to connect to Azure AI Foundry project. So this is what my project connection string is stored with the help of the key project connection string. This is my Bing API. So as we see here in the connected resources, I have this Bing API. My resource name is Bing API. So same name I have used here under a key called Bing connection. I am going to use both of them in my project here. So to load them from the environment file .env file, I have created this load.env. I use this load.env function, which I get from .env package here. So this is used for loading environment variables from env file. Now here in this block, you can see I use AI project client, that is again my Azure AI Foundry SDK. Using the connection string method, from connection string, I try to authenticate my application against my Azure subscription. And then if authentication is successful, I'm trying to load my project connection string. So that project connection string will give me the Azure AI Foundry project access. That is what my project client here. The same way, I'm going to retrieve my Bing connection using this Bing connection string. And once it is there, I get the connection ID. I am just printing that connection ID here. And now I am going to use a tool. As I told you when we discussed key component of Azure AI Foundry, I told you we get a tool. We have grounding tools like a Bing grounding tool. We have code interpreter tool. With the help of that tool, you can generate a Python script, Python code. We have NLP, a normal chat tool, where it will understand your input and give you the appropriate response. We can write any prompt, any query here. So first I'm going to use the Bing connection tool and Bing grounding tool. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask a real-time question, a live question, and it will use this Bing grounding tool to get me the response. So we are going to get the current response with the help of the Bing API. Now here I create the agent with the Bing tool. So again, my model GPT-4 is my model name that I have created in Azure AI Foundry project. As I show you, if I go to models and endpoints, I have this GPT-4 model that I'm going to use. It is like how you deploy the model. You can deploy the base model. You can deploy the fine-tuned model. I have deployed the base model GPT-4, and my Python project is going to make a query or is going to send the prompt to this model with the help of my project connection string. To validate my project connection string, I just use an API, a function to validate my Azure credentials. And once I get it, I'll get the response. Again, to get the response internally, as we see, it's going to use this Bing connection to get the live response from our code block. So this is my GPT-4 model. This is the name of the agent. This is the agent of for the this is an instruction for the agent, like you are a helpful assistant. And here we say we are going to use Bing tool definition to get the live data kind of thing. We just create the agent. So I just print the agent ID. Now for the communication, to remember the history, conversation history, the question, what is asked to the agent, to the AI Foundry project, right? We are going to use a thread. So we just create the thread and we are just going to print the thread ID. And now I'm going to create a message to the thread. So I define, again, this is what prompt engineering concept. I'm going to define the role. I'm going to take some input, some query from the user. And then once we get the response, my thread would be finished. I just print the status. I get the data. And again, here we get each and every data. We are going to print the output here using an iterator. This is the Python coding. We are also going to delete our agent. This is the first thing. So if I go to my terminal, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire a query here. So I need to activate my virtual environment first of all. So let me just go to this command to activate. Okay, first I'm just going to log into my Azure environment, tenant ID and all. This should not be the case. It's authenticated here. Yeah, and I have a subscription. This is not the proper way to get the subscription and the tenant ID. You can write the code which will generate system identity that you can use. So this would not be the case here. I mean, this is just for the demo purpose. And once I am authenticated, now again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate my, I don't want to write the previous command. So I just activate my virtual environment where I have installed these Azure AI projects as well as Azure Identity. So I have just installed these two libraries, which is already installed in this virtual environment. It's a Python specific thing. And now I'm going to execute the particular python.exe, and I'm just going to execute this code here, this script file f1.py. And as we discuss the code, see here what we get is we get some detail. That's what I'm just printing: agent ID, thread ID. And now I'm going to ask a question. So I'm going to ask the question, what is the latest news in Azure AI Foundry by Microsoft? Let's see. We ask some question. So thread is created for the message communication. Thread is finished. We have deleted the agent. This is what my user's question, and this is what the assistant is. The latest news for Azure AI Foundry involves the instruction of GPT 4.1 with 1 million token context. The version of GPT 4.1, including its nano and mini variant, significantly extends Azure's context handling capabilities, allowing the processing of large data sets. So ultimately, we get the latest news here. Again, I can ask, what is today's date? Again, for this internally we are using Bing API. Okay, it's actually close it. My bad. Again, I execute it, and then I'm going to ask the question, what is today's date? And yes, I get today's date. So I'm getting the live data. Again, I run it. Agent is created, and now I ask the question. It's like, what is today? Give me the weather of Mumbai today. So we have created our custom AI agent, just like Copilot, with the help of Azure AI Foundry, and it's using Bing tool. Project is deployed in AI Foundry project. And as we discussed, my request will go to Azure AI Foundry project. Here I can integrate the project with other Azure native services, serverless architecture specific services, or other Azure AI services. And I can complete that entire agentic solution. It's like it's giving me current weather of the Mumbai city. Now same way here, I have created one more function like my calculator function. I import various packages here. So if we just go to my calculator function here, again I import OS module, JSON module. Then we have this AI project client, which is Azure AI Foundry project SDK. To get authentication, I have this default Azure credentials, tools for the agents. So here I say I want to use Bing grounding tool. I also use a function tool, and I have a tool set. So in the previous previous script, we say we have a Bing grounding tool. The second tool is we have function tool. As I told you, we have code interpreter tool also, which is used to generate the code, Python code. Now, what is this function tool? This function tool allows you to trigger your custom function, and which can perform some logic. Now that function can take the user's input and send it to Azure storage. Now from Azure storage, when there is a new entry in Azure storage, you can just trigger some logic app or Azure function, which will take that uploaded file. Then it will give it to Azure document intelligence service. and it will extract the informations. Then it will store it in the database and give something back to you. So this is what the function chaining, function tooling we can do here. And I want both of them. So I'm also going to have one tool called toolset. And now my custom function I have created in the file called user functions. So I go to user functions.py file. It is a standard Python function. It's like a calculate function which takes input expression of type string, and then using exception handling, using the eval function, I'm going to evaluate the expression what user is going to enter, and we return that JSON data here. It is a normal Python functions, right? So calculate function takes a string expression, evaluates it, and returns the result of the JSON string. And if evaluation fails, it returns the error as a JSON string. That is what I use json.dumps here. And the set user function can be extended with your further logic and Azure AI Foundry agents here. So now I go back to this my calculator function. This is what I have imported user function here. Again, I get the values from my environment variables here. I get project connection string, I get Bing connection, I get the tool set. In the tool set, I'm going to use the Bing as well as I'm going to use this my custom function. Now here I set that instruction that you are a helpful assistant that perform web searches and calculation choosing the appropriate tool based on the query. That means it is intelligent enough. If you ask what is today's weather, it will not use the calculate function. But if you ask, say, calculate square of 2, it will use the calculate function. So depending on the user's input, it's going to decide what tool to be triggered internally. So it's going to decide that thing. Same way we create agent for communication, we create the thread, and then we get the query from the user. And then here we get the response, and that we are going to display, we delete the agent. So now here I'm going to execute the second file. So I just write python.exe, and my file name is my calculator func.py, my calculator func.py. Yeah. Yes. And now see again, I'm going to call this my calculator func.py. I'm here as of now. Enter your query. Based on my query, it will decide which tool to be triggered. Either it needs to trigger the Bing tool, or it needs to trigger the function tool, which is my custom function. So again, if I ask the question, what is the weather of the Mumbai today? And purposefully the spelling is wrong, so it will understand the NLP also. I just put the question. It gives me the current weather of the Mumbai today. And if I ask the question, calculate expression. Okay. Again. Calculate the expression. It should answer me as per my calculate function logic, and yes, the result of this is 4. So if you see this calculate function logic, it prints the result based on the logic here, right? So this is what it internally determine what tool to be triggered. So we create the tool set. In the tool set, we use the Bing tool. Here I use the function tool. As I mentioned, you can have code interpreter tool. So we can have various tool provided by Azure AI Foundry project. We can integrate our Azure AI Foundry project with various Azure native services, Azure AI services, Azure data services, security, VPN, VNet, NSG, inbound rules, outbound rules we can deploy. We can have various types of models available under model repository. So this is what how we can create our Azure AI Foundry project very fast here. And here, like as we see, we have connected resources, and we can connect our Azure AI Foundry project to various external assets also. So as we discussed, here we have a centralized dashboard where we have our project specific resources, connection string, code, data variables, etc. We have various tools available, and we have model repository. We get content safety. So this is what Azure AI Foundry service, which help us. Like here we have grounding with Bing search, grounding with Bing custom search, lot of things, Microsoft Fabric, MongoDB we can use here. So here what we did, we have Azure AI Foundry project. We get the project connection string. Okay, what I can do, I can just write it down here for our understanding. So what we did is we have Azure AI Foundry project. Then what we did is this project gives me the connection string. This project I have connected to Bing API. Again, as we discussed, in this project we have model repositories, we have content understanding, we have various tools where we can do integration with other Azure services and Azure AI services, Azure data services. We have our Python application. In Python application, we use Azure AI project, which is my Azure Foundry SDK. Then we get authentication, authorization with my Azure environment. And now here we write our code, right? And what that code does, code takes the user input and that it understands and decides to trigger which tool of Azure AI Foundry project. This is what the overall scenario we have implemented here. We also access here what we access. We access here Azure AI Foundry project connection string, Bing API resource connection, and then it's a normal Python logic. So this is what we did, right? Yeah. So yes, this is what our part one of Azure AI Foundry project. We understand the Bing tool as well as the function tool. In part two, we'll make it bit advanced and we'll understand other capabilities of Azure AI Foundry project, right? We'll see how to use Azure AI Foundry project, code interpretation tool, We'll see about content negotiation and a lot of other things we'll discuss in part 2 and then in part 3. So that's it for the session from my end. We are free to take any questions. Yeah, feel free to ask questions. Yes, Rashmita? You can use it for free trial subscription, yes, but one thing is when you go for this Bing tool, Bing API resource, Kavita, in that case you need a paid subscription. With the free trial subscription, you will not get a Bing tool. So some of the tools would not be available with free trial subscription. Even to get that LLM models, you need that you need to fill in the form and you need that LLM model access also. Correct, that's the one thing. But all tools would not be available. For example, when I go to my free trial subscription and try to deploy Bing API is not available there. Then I have to go to paid subscription. I need to deploy it there, and then I use that key to my Azure AI Foundry project through REST API. Through REST API Lite, you can consume it through REST API. I think it's the same question. No, I mean you can't get everything in free tier, right? A free tier, right? There will be some limitations over there, and they will ask you for the credit card. That would be for your valid authentication, right? And your consumption will be depending on the. I mean, your billing will be depending on your consumption, the resources what you consume there. You want this code for your future practice and learning? Yes, you would get it. I'm just going to share my GitHub URL and you can use them. Kazim, part 2 is on 27th of June and part 3 you would get to see the dates very soon. It's a rhyme, June and soon. Can you deploy the Azure OpenAI models to Copilot Studio? Also, no. In Copilot Studio, you create your custom agents and you use the models there, but this model you cannot deploy to Copilot Studio. And for a fraction of a second, just give me a minute. I'm going to provide you the GitHub repository. Just give me a second. Yes. So this is the URL that you can use. Is there in the chat box? Yeah, Rashmita, I hope you can see the URL, right? In the chat box, I have pasted. Yes, just magic. So that's what we did ultimately, right? We create one agent using the AI models available in the AI Foundry. That's what we did in today's session. So that means, Ishan, you want to implement the RAG mechanism here. You want to bring your own data. As I show you, right? Again, I can show you one more time. When you go to these connections here, so using, for example, if you want your own data, so you need to implement Azure AI Search, which will take your data from the Blob or RDBMS system or Cosmos DB anywhere. You create the index. I mean, you have to do indexing of that data, and that endpoint you can bring here, right? So you can connect your Azure AI Foundry project with Azure AI Search Service, any another Azure AI Foundry model, AI model, Azure OpenAI model. So you can bring your own data here. Definitely, you can directly take the data from Azure Blob Storage. So it's possible.